Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Bad Dentist here. I want to talk about this build, let you know all the things you need to get it online, and then to really get it optimized. So let's go ahead and dive in. So obviously, you've seen everything from a regular Echo all the way up to Aberroth. Have not attempted Uber Abbey, and there's a reason for that. We need some more min-maxing. And this is part of a challenge I have in my channel. So if you come and check us out on Twitch, it's Bad X Dentist, one word. Uh, we have this incentive that we have in our channel where you cash in a shit ton of channel points, and then I have to put together the build that you give me. It's called the Build Boss. You get to boss me around with your build. And Oravax, one of our esteemed members, told me to work in a Reflect Forge Guard. And so I immediately was like, what the hell is that? So I took a deep dive in it, gave it some careful thought, and this is what we came up with. Right now, we're sitting at about 600 plus easy um, speed farming of echoes, and it's all scaling around our attunement and our overall armor mitigation. So that's the two main things you need to focus on: attunement, armor mitigation, and we'll talk about the ways that you can achieve that. So, number one, let's talk about the gear. Actually, it makes sense to talk about the passives and the mastery. So we are a Forge Guard, so we're heavily invested here, but um, let's go ahead and start with the Sentinel tree. So obviously, dumping all the points here into this tree, or into this node. Strength is armor. I grabbed the increased health regen after my symbols of hope weren't quite keeping up with the damage, so I reinvested some points here and took the points out of these two nodes here. 1 point here to get that block chance, and yeah, we hit our 20 and we move on. So the next tree in the progression is we go to the paladin tree. So what I want is typically when you're coming in here, many times you go for the penetration node. We're not doing that this time. We are stacking attunement because the attunement synergizes with our shield, which gives us more reflect damage. 3 points here in honor to hit that block chance, and then 5 points here to unlock the 30 reduced bonus damage from crits, and that will unlock our symbols of hope. Symbols of hope are extremely strong after the rework. Um, I will not ever play a build without this in the foreseeable future. They are amazing, especially when you're trying to reach max block. Um, the next tree is there's some wiggle room here. I mean, you can make some arguments that you can put some more points in some other nodes, but this is what I did. 10 points up here for increased armor when hit, and Fizz Res. The Fizz Res is a synergy with the Thicket Chest piece that actually gives us more reflect damage, and the increased armor when hit is really great because when we're blocking, that counts as a hit. We have max block, and so we're pretty much going to have increased armor all the time. Dump 5 points into here just to grab the strength. 3 points over here to get the block chance at 3%. This node here, this is what makes this build shine. So, in contrast to a Reflect Shaman, this build here takes a different twist on how to augment or enhance the damage reflected. You'll notice here that this node gives us flat armor and also 240 damage taken, but it also scales with 1% armor mitigation. So per 1% armor mitigation, we get 5 reflections back. We're pretty much at max armor with all our buffs. So let's just go and say 80 times 5. That is, what's the math there? That is 400, right? Yeah, that's 400. 400 flat on top of the 240 flat that you get up top. Down here at the bottom, This is all mainly for our armor and attunement. And per attunement, we actually get damage over time mitigation from armor per 2 attunement. So this node and this node really take the build online as far as passives. We take 5 points here, and it might be confusing to you why we do that. But what's really great about this is that dodge rating converted to armor. As we're slamming our gear to get max crit strike avoidance, with a particular suffix, we can actually double dip. We can get crit strike avoidance, and we're getting additional armor, which feeds the synergy on this node. Dump 4 points in here immediately. Flat 300 armor, amazing. I dumped 2 points here. We probably should dump 3. We'll do that as we level. Mainly got this for the block chance, but the less damage taken is pretty amazing. Up here, this is what unlocks our ability to wield a two-handed weapon with a shield. We're going to discuss that. And you'll notice here that haste grants added block chance. So when we talk about the gear, there's an experimental affix that can help you reach max block if you're having issues doing it currently. And lastly, down here, 8 points into this node. This node is crazy. So 16 strength just with a two-handed weapon, which we have. Frailty chance with a shield, which we have a shield. And we get additional reduced bonus damage taken from crits. Amazing, powerful node. Lastly, once you kind of finish out that progression, you want to come straight here. The goal being you want to get to this node. So we want void res, phys res, health, and the DR on void and physical attacks. Over here, this is the one that made sense to me. 10% increased health and a chance to absorb health on kill. Really great sustain. But this here, this is the bad mamma jamma, that more armor. So that is a multiplier, not an increase. That is a multiplier. So that is juicy armor, which means a healthy increase to our thorns damage. So that is the passive tree. Taking a look at the skills. Number 1, this is kind of the throwaway. I'll talk about that last. But the Symbols of Hope, pretty standard setup. You want to speed rush straight to your maximum shields, and then you want to come over here and get max block and effectiveness per active symbol. From there, it's kind of your choice. I went with increased healing and increased endurance threshold. You could take a point out of here and put it here. It's totally up to you. But yeah, that's it. Oh, and the 3 points up here, the increased symbol effects for other allies. I'm using that to help keep my kind of wild card spot open. We're using manifest armor. I'll explain why here in a moment once we get through the other skills. Ring of Shields is actually goated. So Ring of Shields does several things. Number 1, it actually reflects a percentage of damage. So we've got that going for us. And so what I did was maximize the Ring of Shield's health so they last longer, and the phys res, so when they take the physical hits, they don't just crumble. They crumble anyway, but they crumble less. Max duration, percent damage reflected. Then I came down over here, and I got max block chance if you have cast Ring of Shields in the last 4 seconds. Or not max block, but increased block. So base 15% block chance is insane just for casting this skill. Now over here, this is where it turns the build kind of into a meme. This is why we call it the Juggernaut build. We're actually using Shield Rush as our movement tech. You can make an argument that Healing Hands or something else might be better, but for the way I play, and the fact this is channeling, this ends up being pretty cool. And if you get a couple Ring of Shield procs or usages and you start flying across the screen, you pretty much have a screen-wide wall of damage reflecting rings of shields. And then up here, we want additional shields, and I chose to pick a shield rotation and less damage taken just to keep them alive longer. Shield Rush, pretty basic setup. I went for the mana efficiency. reduce damage while rushing, increase stun chance, final impact area, and then dump the rest of the points into raw damage. It's not necessarily a damage dealer for us. These nodes are more important. The mana efficiency, you will want that because this does cost a lot early on. Lastly, rebuke. I rebuke enemies in the name of La Cheeses. So this skill is actually probably more goated than Ring of Shields. So what you get out of this is, number one, we get health regen, but down here, while channeling rebuke, you get 75% more armor, which means we pretty much hit the cap on armor, which means a huge bump in our thorns damage. So when we path this way, this means that our buff will persist for a little bit. So after we do some rebukes, we have it for like a second or two. Over here, we also get haste. Remember, haste gives us block chance. So we've got that synergy here. So when we cast Ring of Shields, we have 99% block chance. When we do a rebuke and come out of it, both of those together, we're over 100% block chance. Lastly, the end buff duration took 2 points here. Now, what's great down here is the cooldown recovery. So with a two-handed weapon, remember we took the node that allows us to use that, we get additional cooldown recovery. Then we path up here. Not too bad on the mana cost. We get additional cooldown recovery and an additional charge. This is really nice. I'm actually going to play with a cooldown setup to see if I can just stay perma-rebuking. Not sure if that's possible, but I am going to test that. Over here, I just dumped 2 points into duration and called it a day. Now, focusing on the gear. So we'll start from the top down. We use different gear for leveling, right? But this helmet ended up being the best. I don't know what else could go here. As far as being the best, you might be able to argue that, I mean, for damage-wise, a Leonine helm with the right slams will be best for damage. However, this is the best for just kind of that balance of overall survivability and damage, mainly for survivability. This helmet is, I mean, it's an amazing helmet. You want to slam at least T7 Attunement. If you happen to get lucky and get a 2 LP, I run COF, so it may be harder for you to do that. You would want, say, Attunement, and maybe get some T7 health, or as high of health and an armor setting or slam that you can get, maybe some strength. Thicket, this is crucial for the build to work. So this unlocks. You can use it at level 35, so you can use it very early on, which makes it insane. I personally think they should raise the level requirement to like 65, 70 or something like that. I think this chess piece is great. I don't think it's great being accessible so early. So that's my opinion. Probably unpopular, but that's where I stand. God, I'm thirsty. We'll try to. No, hold on. Be right back. I gotta get a drink. Don't go anywhere. All right, I will. All right, we're back. Okay, we're gonna leave that in. It's a sun kiss, not a beer. Don't judge. I wish it was a beer, but yeah. Thicket. So do your mysterious rifts, grab a thicket. The first one, it's not really going to matter, but ideally, you do want a higher roll on the more damage reflected. You want a higher roll on the increased armor. You can see here some of these things have really, really wide ranges. So this is something I'm going to farm to get a better version of it. That will definitely help. The next piece of the puzzle is this piece of equipment. So you do want max block. The dream would be T7 block, T7 damage reflected. I got the T5, but that is perfectly fine. I'm happy with this slam. This is a shit ton of damage. Like, so if I were to let's go and check out our thorns damage. So we're at 61k. I take it off. We're at 3, like basically under 4k. This is what truly scales the damage. This is what applies it proactively without getting hit. But this is what really scales the damage. So aim to get yourself at least a 2 LP Thornshell. If you're COF, it'll take some grinding. If you're Merchant's Guild, go buy one. But yeah, what you really want is the flat reflection is important, but that 9% increased flat damage per attunement. I have a 3 LP slammed with percent damage reflected and flat damage reflected on it, but with like a 6% increased flat damage reflected, and it does less damage. So that is a very important node right there. But this is also great because, as you can see, we get increased armor. That is synergizing with the node that makes additional reflection with increased armor. When it comes down to the rings, just early on, get you 2 aberrants. Aberrants are really low level. They're pretty easy to print with at least 2 or 3 LP. Slam some T16 attunement on those things. So you will be perfectly fine going through empowered monos, getting pretty high doing so. But eventually you do want 2 red rings. Slam them both with T7 attunement. The DR is amazing. That increased dodge rating for both adds up, becomes increased armor through the conversion node in the Forge Guard tree, and that becomes more damage. So yeah, you're kind of seeing how this thing goes. The belt, this here, you can play with this. I chose this because as I was min-maxing, it gave me the most damage dealt to attackers. And so yeah, I got pretty lucky with a 70% increased armor. Which is nice, and the using the potion cleansing stun and freeze, that's actually pretty legit. It's a pretty powerful belt. You get this from fighting Orbis that's pretty far away from the starting point in your echoes. So aim to get one of these if you want to go this route. Another option would be the Brewmaster's Buckle. It's very good. We get life, we get endurance, and if you can slam some, say, like a crit strike avoidance or even a hybrid health on it, you'll be in really good shape. But I found for me, this belt is kind of working out the best. Boots. So I am kind of split on this. I like these more than going with a Foot of the Mountain. But I do think Foot of the Mountain may be best in slot with the right slams. You're going to need tier 2 Foot of the Mountain boots or LP2 Foot of the Mountain to really kind of scale the damage and get the armor. But Citadel boots, you can't go wrong with it, right? Huge chunks of armor innate with it. We get reduced bonus damage taken from crits. And on this, depending on what your reses look like and whatnot, this is ideally the slam that you want. So you want that attunement, you want the move speed. Ellie res is nice because my cold res was a little lacking. And then, that crit strike avoidance helps us get capped on that. Now, these 2 pieces of gear, I got really lucky on, got unlucky on the slam on this. You will see many builds, and I'll show you what it looks like here. the Valdirs. So Valdirs, I don't have to show you the exact one, but Valdirs, you see that modifier 100% increased damage or of damage reflected? That is very powerful. You do end up doing quite a bit of damage. However, I found that a good rolled Anchor of Oblivion with the increased armor that's on the base of it, and then the base strength that rolls on it, we make up for that lack of percent damage reflection with a shit ton of armor that then translates into the damage dealt to attackers. But what we also get is more tankiness, right? Because it's more armor. And so I slapped on some T7 attunement. I also had some strength, but we missed the strength slam. We also missed another slam on it that I would have preferably liked to have had. But this ended up being best in slot overall for me because it helped us reach the endurance cap, right? Because we don't have room for endurance anywhere else on the gear. So this helped us reach that defensive milestone there. Lastly, man, let me tell you something. Within an hour of telling the stream, I think I need a Ravenous Void. That would be crazy. We got a Ravenous Void that actually hit LP in an egg, and it came with pretty decent rolls on the base. The other rolls, the unique rolls, are low. They're on the low end, but it is still an amazing set of gloves. So the way this works is essentially it's just flat DR. So for example, here over time you start building up what's known as void barrier. So per stack, you just get 5% less damage taken. That is 15% damage reduction off the rip. Then you add the 10% less damage taken from these two rings, right? And then you start adding the passive nodes for the DR. You end up looking at just off the rip, 34% less damage taken, period. And then we've got 44% less damage over time taken, which is amazing. But what's really nice is if you block a hit, I don't think I'm going to be able to show it, but I'll show you what it looks like without a block. The reason why we're able to tank all of those hits in these monos, we'll let this build up a little bit. Just got to build up a stack. 1 second. Once that hits 3, I'll show you. So once we hit rebuke, watch this shit. So rebuke by itself, you take 80% less damage while channeling. So when you combine it with everything, we are at 90% practically for DR. And then with the 2 charges of rebuke, I mean you're gonna be rebuking like pretty frequently. And then when you're channeling, we have more armor while channeling. That's channeling. This is channeling. So we're at least going to have 30 to 40% DR across the board. Pretty nasty. I mean, it's just nasty. So defensively, this is S tier. Endurance, cap, reduced bonus damage from crits. If we got crits, capped just because of the gear. Crit strike avoidance, that is, I mean, we're capped there, and we're capped without having to put in the idols. So, really good stuff. So we've got DR, we've got damage, and we're speedy because of shield rush. It's just all good. All right, the video is getting long, so I'm going to move on a little further. So talking about the idols, what you want best in slot is going to be what's called restful small weaver idols of the Briar. The restful modifier gives you a big bump in your overall health pool. It is a very rare idol to get with both of those affixes. It has been less rare to get the Briar suffix, which gives you percent damage reflected and flat damage reflected. So prioritize the suffix and set yourself up with a filter dedicated just to restful Briar. These are not going to drop very often. If you're in Merchant's Guild, it's really just seeing how many are in the market, and if you're the first one to go in there and buy them up. That's pretty much been the experience with my Merchant Guild guys in our channel and community. But as a COF guy, what you're going to want to do is to kind of give you a better chance at getting those idols. You're going to want to increase your cemetery spawn chance, and you want to increase your tomb chance. And wherever you can, you want to increase pack sizes. You can even argue down here that you could, the champions, they could spawn a blue lizard. That might actually be the way to go. Blue lizards, of course, drop idols. So when you're in a cemetery and you're dropping idols, of course, it's a numbers game. You have a higher chance of getting those briars as a COF guy. You could also run prophecies, but you would have to get very specific prophecies, and you would have to make sure that you pretty much speed run straight to your cemeteries and tombs so that you don't pop those prophecies outside of cemeteries or tombs, because you're more than likely not going to get those Weaver idols. Okay, so that's what I got to say about that. So pretty much every slot get a Briar Weaver idol. Blessings. So I am COF, so I go with the increased experience. If you're Merchants Guild, do what you want. Do gold, do uniques, whatever floats your boat. Since we're not doing really hit damage, you could make an argument that you could go for the flat health here. You could opt in to say go health. That's not bad, but I found that what's most beneficial is going the flat dodge rating. Flat dodge rating equates to more armor because we're converting dodge to armor, and then that converts to more thorn damage. So dodge rating, my opinion, best in slot. Over here, best in slot, health regen. Really what we're doing with Symbols of Hope, what we're doing with rebuke and whatnot, we're trying to out-heal the reduced damage that we're taking. So that's the name of the game. I need to farm a better one, but this has been sufficient so far. But we do need to min-max this if we're going to legitimately try Uber. All res, I mean, with the red rings, not needed. I mean, if you're lacking in crit strike avoidance, I would say take that. If you're capped on crit strike avoidance, go ahead and grab the all res. Why not? Those are the only two that I see of benefit in here for this build. Nothing else really applies. Block chance. You want to get the max block chance. So here's the deal. Without the experimental haste affix potentially on boots that will then translate into the when you get haste, it goes into 10% block chance. Right now, with the Ring of Shields base block chance, all the node trees block chance, when we cast Ring of Shields, we reach 99%. And I can guarantee you, once you're at 500 plus corruption, those enemies will find that 1% that you're not blocking, right? So that's why so let's try this. There we go. So when you rebuke, use that. For a brief moment, you're overcapped. 99 is pretty good, but keep in mind it's going to be very hard to break that block chance unless you get a 2 LP red ring and you happen to slam block chance on it. Or maybe you're still rocking the Aberrant with a lot of LP. You want to slam some level of block chance. It could be a tier 1 block chance. But that would make you capped whenever you use your Ring of Shields within a certain amount of time. Okay, that's it. That's enough. So the gameplay, you want to pretty much just cast Ring of Shields. If you're feeling a little weak, cast that, and then you just rush across the map. And as you're rushing, your rings are a wall, and that wall is essentially reflecting. You're reflecting. It's pretty nuts. So, Leah, let me know what you think about the build. The character planner for the Last Epoch tools will be below in the description. Hopefully you enjoyed this. I think this is fun. Oh, we didn't talk about the weapon. Shit. This is super important. Okay, last thing. Weapon. My opinion, this is best in slot. I've seen builds where they're leveraging the Vengeance spear. I even tried experimenting with other weapons. I still think this is best in slot. Best in slot meaning that you can get all attributes, which feeds our attunement and our strength, which is armor, which is reflect, but also it comes with a base opportunity of getting 32 flat strength. That is amazing. So to me, this is best in slot. Ideally, what I would want on here is T7, like the God Slam to me, be T7 Polymath, which is all attributes, and then T7 Parry Chance. If we can get that, dude, I'm golden. So that's what I'm on the hunt for. But anyways, that's the build. It took a little while, but I did want to do a deep dive, so you kind of understood how it worked. Let me know what you think in the comments. There are some builds out there. They're doing Uber Aberroth and whatnot. There's other Reflect builds and other classes, but I feel this one is the most fun to play. It does everything well. Everything well. It's fast. It's tanky. It does damage. So I like it. Let me know if you like it. I'm out. Come check us out at the stream, Bad X Dentist, and lurk around long enough. And you too could do a build boss recommendation like this, where you give me a mastery, a skill, conditions, and then I have to take it as far as I can within 3 days, with the goal of hitting at least 300 corruption and killing Abby. So we definitely did it with this build. We're going to take it further, but we're going to have to table it because I have other builds I got to catch up on my spreadsheet from the channel. So join us. I will see you guys later. Bye.